Hi guys. So this week I am going to talk to you guys about expectations and unhealthy escapism. Now, I'm actually acting out one of those traits right now. I'm sitting in a tree in my front yard, trying to avoid my daughter's TV show, which I thought was probably too loud to record. And then I realized, well, I'm sitting in a tree. I think ants are kind of crawling on me. And, you know, once we try and avoid certain things like, I guess, being around people that we love, maybe if they're being a bit too noisy when we're trying to do something, you know, there are other complications that come up. I just sat on some ants. I had to try and move around the tree stump so it wouldn't poke me. There are cars that are coming past. There's actually workmen working over there at the moment. And now I got to hold all my stuff. It's kind of uncomfortable. Tree's pretty though, huh? So I'm thinking I'm gonna take you guys upstairs and read out a bunch of information that I researched for this, because in actual fact, I am very experienced at this topic. I mean that in the way that I'm definitely not one of those kinds of escapists that, you know, gets in a box and goes underwater and has a timer. No good at that. But I have been escaping things that really matter or that I want to do for the longest time. And it's something that I really avoided researching. I had 2 requests to do this video, and I knew that it was really important because I struggle with diving into things that I really need to do. And I know that many of us have done that before. I mean, have you ever had a conversation with someone, or, you know, maybe tried to break up with them or whatever over the fact that maybe you thought they were going to break up with you? You know, have you ever not gone to work because there's drama and you're like, I'm sick, ugh, don't want to deal with it today. I mean, that's escapism, right? Have you ever dived into a series of a TV show because you just had a breakup? I mean, there are so many things that we can do that come down to escapism. And some of them are healthy and some of them aren't healthy. And it's definitely something to look at on, you know, are you actually happy? Do you think that things that you're doing are creating balance and success in your life? You know, it's a big thing. So I'm going to grab my notes here. Okie dokie. Oh, excellent. I'm trying to catch up where I'm at. So through my life of trauma and disappointments, unfortunately, I've developed a very unhealthy trait of avoidance. And I just can't seem to invest in things that, you know, might allow me to succeed or move forward. Anything that might lead to my happiness. It's quite scary for me. You know, so life has, I guess, shown me that some things don't work out, and you know, there's pain and misery and sorrow, and loss is really scary, and I guess failure has been a big thing for me, and it's a big fear for me, you know, and that is something that I'll go through in a moment as well. I've got a checklist and I've got some questions, so if you guys want to get some pen and paper, that might help. Okay, so what are we saying? You know, when we accept, like, not moving forward, not doing these things, what are we saying to ourselves? I guess we're saying, I'm happy where I am right now. And usually we're not. And my fears have consumed me, and they now have all the control. And the past that I've lived is actually the present. They're not different. And, you know, change, the unknown, is really scary. And it's actually worse to change and succeed than it is to stay in this current situation that I am right now. And is that what we actually want? You know, because I know it's not what I want. I know that I'm doing things that are not benefiting me, you know. It was even hard for me to research this. I was like, oh, I know I need to, but there was this avoidance popping up, like, you know, avoiding researching avoidance. How convenient. So is that, you know, is that how we see ourselves? Do we want to see ourselves in a way where we're not succeeding? Do we see ourselves as failures, as someone who doesn't have potential? I mean, if we do, we've really got to work on that, because everybody has potential. Everybody has an opportunity to change and progress and do better in life. You know, we're just running from like the feelings and things that are popping up, because I know when I think of something that I have to do, like an assignment or something like that, I get all these really uncomfortable feelings, and they're, you know, obviously attached to fear and failure, and sometimes it's really hard to analyze what those feelings mean and what they are and why they're coming up, and all of those kinds of things. So I've got some helpful tips and information at the end as well, in regards to how to help ourselves with that. So I will just go, okay, 10 signs that you are an escapist. Okay, so we'll go to the good signs first, because obviously I'm a good news kind of person. So if you're an escapist, you might daydream a lot. So you might create your own reality, and you could, even in your reality, you could be living out your deepest desires or dreams. Number 2, you are very creative. So you might create alternate realities in your mind, which, you know, you can come up with new ideas. Sometimes people who are really creative, myself included here, create so many ideas and opportunities and things that come up in their mind that they get overwhelmed. And it's really hard to act on those. You know, I have so many things that I want to do and I think about all the time. But actually acting on those things, you know, when you're looking at the demands that you have in your life of family, work, other commitments that are obviously first priorities. These dreaming ideas are second priorities. They're something that shouldn't be prioritized above the things you need to do. So yeah, creativity, that's one. 3, you want to live your life on your terms. So chances are there are things in your life you don't have control over. You may want to quit your job and chase your dreams or gain some more independence. Even if it's not entirely realistic, there's a longing for change, but a hesitation to change. Now, this is something that I was told the other day, and it really hit me. So there was a gentleman, right, and he wanted more independence. So he created his own business, and he's like, well, now I can work for myself and I have more control and freedom, and that's amazing, right? Because that's what we want, control, isn't it? Okay, so he started to actually get the business started to control him, you know, and he's like, no, I'm still in control. So he goes and books this family holiday. He goes away to this family holiday location, and at the location he gets a phone call from a gentleman who wants to buy some of his shares for the business, right? So he cancels the vacation, comes back, and obviously dives back into work. And he's sitting there saying, well, I'm independent now, I own my own business. But you know, that's something to think on. Like, where are you going to get the most independence? At every turn, we have commitments, and it's about that balance. You know, obviously, he could have said, "No, I'm away at the moment. I'll be back in a week or whatever it is." You know, if we're doing something because we want more independence, stick to it. You know, sometimes we can really get consumed by the idea of progressing, and it doesn't really benefit us in the end, because we're then in the same position, but we're just working for ourselves. Okay, so next one. Number 4, you love travel. So you want to explore the vibrant cultures that the world has to offer, even romanticizing travel based on unrealistic ideas that we've places, you know, seen in the social media or on the internet, or, you know, even friends' stories and things like that. Number 5, you enjoy reading fiction or fantasy or even sci-fi, because those kinds of areas really do create wonder, and they promote thoughts and ideas and things like that in an escapist mind, creating a sense of belonging as well for escapists, because people who really have creative minds love to know that they're not alone in that. I can think up some really weird and wonderful things, and when someone smiles and says, "Oh, I like you," I think, "Oh my goodness, I'm not a complete weirdo." I know I am, but it's nice to meet other weirdos. So it also, can inspire people who are creative to think, about more things, or explore, or have that sense of adventure. And yeah, it's good. Okay, bad signs. So people who are escapists can underperform at work or in relationships and things like that, can pull away. They can have a lack of focus or commitment. So escapists are looking at the future, so the things that they want to achieve, their dreams, and they may lose focus at work or be stuck in the imagination gap. So instead of focusing on reality and what needs to be done, and seeking the satisfaction in the tasks they are doing right now, they might be, looking at things that perhaps they don't have right now, or even romanticizing that job or whatever it is that really isn't what we think it is. I had that with nursing. I was like, oh, it's going to be amazing when we have to talk to people. No, it wasn't. But I really loved that job, but it definitely wasn't what I thought it was going to be. Number 7, you may be addicted to social media or video games or anything, that I guess promotes escape. These online or out-of-world activities can provide an imaginary reality, which sometimes promotes the control that an escapist needs to recreate themselves or even create your dream life. And it can be quite addictive. Obviously, people do know that. I got addicted to Facebook for ages, and video games for the longest time. So I've been working on that. You realize the world is a harsh place. So a common characteristic for people who have escapist tendencies is that they can often have, chased their dream of love or career or whatever it was that they've chased, and then been faced with the harsh facts that it's harder than they thought, or been told no, or whatever else it is, which obviously has created that failure and that disappointment and all of those fears and things like that. And sometimes people can actually get, I guess, pushed in the wrong direction from that, and not go chasing their dreams anymore, and which does often pull people back into that escapist realm even more. So they go into their imaginary world where they can actually have their dreams and their passions, recognized, and they can have that achievement because they're creating it themselves. Okie dokie. Number 9, you tend to procrastinate. So you want to live your dream life, but something keeps holding you back, and it's preventing you from pursuing your passion. It's like those feelings I was talking about earlier. I get that. So it's mainly related to being petrified or a fear of failure. So often people can get stuck on the what ifs, it's that anxiety, like, what if this happens? What if this worst case scenario happens? And CBT is a really good one for that. I have a list of cognitive behavioral therapy techniques for worry and those types of things on a video called something about worry on my page. Anyway, so asking what ifs surrounding failure. Excuse me. What if people don't like my writing? What if I truly can't help people? What if I really am a toxic person and I just thought I had changed? Usually they're doused in insecurities and past experiences or things people have said or whatever it is. Sometimes criticism sticks with us longer than the positive things. It's always important to take the pieces of the criticism that are helpful, not just the ones you want to hear, but the ones that are helpful, different. And so, is staying where you are right now going to make you feel satisfied? Is it really better? That's something that I always try and ask when I look at that stuff. Anyway, and the last one, number 10. You can't face uncertainty. So uncertainty and procrastination play hand in hand. The real world provides no certainty, whereas your alternate dream world provides security, safety, success, happiness, and certainty all at once. Facing uncertain situations may cause you to procrastinate and go into your dream world if you are faced with situations or opportunities that seem too challenging or unfamiliar. This especially happens with people who have experienced trauma, because it actually feels very unsafe to do things that are different or out of the box, because obviously, things haven't worked out very well in the past when they've been shown that society life is quite hard and sometimes not very safe. Okie dokie, so that is, now I'm going on to a different avenue of this. So we're looking at unhealthy expectations, which play a huge part into escapism and why we do it. Okay, and then I'll come to how we're going to help ourselves and things like that at the end. Okay, so there's the expectation gap. Okay, so the expectation formation, we look at imagination, those around us, and past experiences. Those are three big factors on why we get disappointed and we have fears and all of those kinds of things. So the expectation gap equals expectation versus reality. So imagination obviously has a big part of that. So we're looking at what actually makes us happy. So if I ask you these two questions, would you prefer in the Olympics to get second, third, or second last? Now, when we answer this, we're not actually looking at what would make us happy, right? We're looking at what we think is the best. We would go for second, wouldn't we? Majority of the population said second, and in actual fact, what would make us happy would be third. And the reason for that is because second, people who got second are thinking, I could have got first, okay? But people who got third are thinking, I'm so glad I didn't get fourth. I actually placed. So it gives them a bit more, of a gratifying result. And, they're actually appreciative of what they got. And then the second question, this goes into the unhealthy expectations model as well. Would you prefer to have $10 million today or get $8 million, but it gradually gets more and more over time? Now, the population said $10 million now, right? Because people want everything now. Why would you want to work for it? And why would you want less? And, obviously it creates more security, doesn't it, to get 10 million now? No, it doesn't actually. Because people usually who go on the lottery and things like that haven't had money before. So they're now faced with all of this money that they don't know what to do anything with. And usually they blow it. That's in some statistics there as well. Most people who win the lottery don't have much after 2 years. If anything, they have less. Okay, but the $8 million over time with more and more money actually promotes that feeling of achievement and success for us. The same goes for our finances. I'll read that in the next part. Okie dokie. So then next is the imagination gap. Okay, so the imagination gap occurs when our imagination exceeds reality. So for instance, we have an idea of places like Bali, Indonesia, that it's a tourist spot. It's beautiful. It's, amazing. And I guess some people don't think, oh, it's a third world country, and the video that I watched some of this from, I'll share you guys the link as well. He was talking about, he was really surprised when he went to Africa. He's like, oh, it's an amazing country, and he's helping out with some of the charities and stuff there. And he said, I wasn't surprised about the poverty because I knew that it was there. He said, I was surprised about the happiness. These people who had nothing, some people, had disabilities and they were, also poor and also working and also trying their very hardest, but they were really happy and they were really grateful. And that's something that I noticed when I went to Bali. I looked at the beaches and I thought, oh, my beach just here in Redcliffe where I live is probably the same. And we have a lot better beaches here in Australia. But I guess, you know, originally I went for the beach, but what I found over there was what he was talking about, the happiness. There's such a culture shift in what we experience. My daughter's just using the loo. What we experience here in Western cultures and what people experience in, you know, cultures who don't have as much in the way of wealth. I mean, they definitely have more wealth in the way of family support and, you know, making the elderly feel useful and that happiness. You know, usually they work 7 days a week and they are, you know, grateful that they have friends and people that care about them and time off in the evenings and all of that kind of stuff. So, look, it's amazing to look into that and go, okay, well, why am I unhappy? You know, how can I be happy? And what are my perceptions of this? You know, sometimes we're looking at other people's lives or this you know, fantasy life or these pictures of things online, and we're thinking, oh, how come our lives aren't like that? Everybody has struggles. We know this. You know, we've just got to make the best of our own lives, our own face, our own bodies, you know, our own health, our own current circumstances. They're not going to disappear. You know, they're not going to change unless we make them change, you know. So our choices, excuse me, are based on what's going to be the best choice for us in the way of safety, contentment, happiness, etc. So it's about getting our feelings and needs met, right? But often our ideas of how things will go don't factor in how life actually is. And that undermines our happiness, which invites disappointment. Kind of like when I saw the beach in Bali, you know. I was like, oh, okay. But when we choose, you know, the reality, not what we're imagining or our expectations tell us we should experience, we can actually invite some of that happiness back. And, you know, if you look at society, advertising shows us the best images, and they say, oh, that's average, you know, photoshopped people, oh, that's normal. They build us up to be dissatisfied and disappointed. And we all know this is a reason for their own marketing strategies to make us unhappy, because people want to buy more stuff, which leads to the issues with self-esteem, disbelief, and sadness, which is obviously a part of fear and failure. And society is showing us the big, bold, famous, and beautiful, and we are often happier when we are around people who we feel, you know, are we're happier when we're around people who are actually less successful, or people who we have something to offer to, like teach them something, or people who are actually less attractive, which is quite sad, isn't it? I mean, I was thinking about different situations and I thought, wow, that is interesting. We always want to be, like, there's this ego playing, you know, we always want to be, I guess, better. We want engaged to say we're doing really well. Like, and the fellow in the video, he even said, you know, if we start achieving things and other people start achieving things, then we don't feel like we've actually achieved anything. But if we start achieving things and other people don't, then we feel good about it. I just thought, oh, wow, we've really got to change that perspective. Like, we can all win the race, can't we? Okay, so then there's the next one, the intemporal gap, which is when our past seems better than our present reality. And it goes, for instance, if your income starts out at $60,000 a year and then you go to a job earning $20,000 a year much later, we are likely to feel unhappy, unsatisfied with where we are at, and romanticize about the past. The same can be said for the opposite. If we started with a $20,000 a year job and are now earning $60,000 a year, there's a danger in chasing more that can keep us unhappy. Instead of chasing wealth for happiness, we should be chasing knowledge, kindness, forgiveness, empathy, stronger boundaries, assertiveness, self-love, and love for others, and trying to be stronger and promote a growth mindset for our own journey of self-improvement. Now, I wanted to add in here the fisherman story, right? So there's a story about a fisherman. He's on a rock, he's doing some fishing. Guy comes up and says, hey, do you know what? Would you like to catch more fish? And the guy's like, oh yeah, why not? And he said, you could get a boat. He said, why would I get a boat? She's like, so you can catch more fish. And he's like, oh, okay. And he's like, yeah, and then you could get another boat and you could catch even more fish. And you know, eventually you could have a large amount of boats catching fish for you. And he's like, oh yeah? And what would I do then? And he's like, well, then you could spend time fishing. And he's like, but I'm doing that right now. Sometimes we've got to think about what we have right now. Like, what do we have right now? I mean, are we looking at the future and feeling dissatisfied and unhappy when we could be looking at right now? We actually have time to be doing these things, but we're not really spending all of that time enjoying them because we're thinking about the things that we want in the sense of wealth or status or people perceiving us as, you know, important or something of the like. Okay, so it's called anchoring when we compare ourselves to our past and look at, you know, how well we're doing as per se. So I just put in there, don't chase the impossible unless you want to be unhappy. Although if you have a dream, be patient, make connections, research others who have done it or are doing it, make a plan and work towards manageable and attainable goals every day. Okie dokie, and I will just get into the last part of this video. So how to help ourselves with escapism. We can, what did you cut back a bit more balanced? Oh, wean. Couldn't even read my own writing. Wean yourself off escapism. So what do you need to do to cut back a bit more or be more balanced? So if you can write a list and pick one small thing to start with on what you might need to cut back on in the sense of what you're avoiding or escaping. Enforce the real life right now rule. So make your real life more fun. Get those needs of excitement, achievement, wonder, self-esteem, connection, friendship, met in real life. And how can you do that? Can you substitute a real life positive experience for your escapist positive experience? So meeting up with friends instead of Facebooking all day. I mean, Facebook will be there when you get home. I know this one. Redefine what it means to escape. So refueling refers to things of secondary importance. So like secondary importance, obviously, things that are enjoyable and things like that. But your commitments, your primary commitments are, you know, family, work, you know, things that are obviously essential to your life. And then they're not bad things. By saying, you know, escapism, we're really saying, oh, our family's a bad thing. We don't really want to spend time with them, you know. And they're necessary, and they have their own positives, and they bring their own, you know, enjoyment to our own lives. And we really don't want to escape them. We want to, I guess, promote the most enjoyable moments with the primary commitments and our secondary commitments. And, you know, if we just have some momentary relief, some me time, then we can go back to enjoying that time with our friends and family as well. So identify what you're trying to avoid. So pen and paper for this one, guys. Instead of hiding from things, it's time to ask yourself why. Unfortunately, there is no escape from your circumstances. It actually decreases enjoyment because we aren't fully invested in our me time while thinking about those bills we are avoiding or that study we need to do. So number one, write down, why am I avoiding this? Number two, why do I want to avoid it? Number three, are there any benefits to avoiding it? And then write a pros and cons list. And number four, make a list of all the things you'd like to do, but haven't because you've been doing something else. I'm thinking something unimportant like escaping, watching a bit of TV. I do that all the time. Okay, so the last one, aim for smaller doses of escapism. So substitute it or replace an unhealthy habit for healthier habits. Access supports to help and, you know, make compromises with yourself or reduce time spent on that escapism activity and use it as a tool to help yourself. And escape to the world you're already in. So look at progressing, not obsessing. We can, you know, really get caught in unhealthy obsessions that we aren't, and we're not moving forward. What can we do for ourselves? What's going to help us feel the same enjoyment, but help us as well? Maybe learning something new, getting out into nature, something that helps, not hinders us. So I've been thinking about that all morning because I have issues with this as well. So yeah, I'd love it if you guys can give me any tips that you've learned along the way, and any more requests, more than happy to do them. This one has been a really long one today, but I felt it was kind of important. So because I had to answer the 3 questions that were asked to me, which was about explain escapism, how do we get through it, and why does it happen? So I think I did that. I think I'll add the resources as well, that references that I got it from. Okay, thanks. Bye, guys.